Hello and welcome back to Art Masters with me, Mrs. Portilla. Today we're going to be doing some enchanted dreamlike villages just like Marc Chagall. He messed around with scale, making things bigger and smaller in proportion, and he made patterns and dreamlike qualities in his abstract art, where some is a little bit real and a lot of it is a lot of abstract. So today we're going to be doing some enchanted villages just like Chagall, and we'll be using oil pastels. So once you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, my friends, to get started with our Marc Chagall dreamlike Russian village, we are going to have our oil pastels and a color piece of square paper. You guys are all going to have different colors, which is going to make this interesting. So let me have you watch first. So when you look at Marc Chagall's picture that we have in class, you'll notice the little Russian village in the upper right-hand corner, and some buildings are upside down. They're very geometric, squares, triangles, and then there's one rounded building. And you'll notice that they have these kind of teardrop domed shapes. Okay, so that's kind of typical of a Russian church at the time. Start with some of the roofs. So again, we're going to be doing triangles or this teardrop shape. So I'm going to magical bright colors. So if I have a green paper and I try to use this light green, that's not going to contrast, right? But if I used this purple, that's really going to contrast, right? So just being mindful of the colors we're choosing. So the first shape I'm going to do is going to kind of come off this side. So again, I am going to do a line. If you guys want to be perfect, we would just use a scratch paper as a straight edge. So I'm going to go right in there with my pastel. So oil pastel is kind of like paint. It's like a very soft, oily crayon. And then I'm going to do the bottom of my roof using my straight edge. And then I'm going to connect it. And then I'm going to do a little triangle near it. So to do a triangle, I'm probably going to do dot, dot, dot. You could pick a new color or you could do the same color. So you could use your straight edge. If you mess up, just kind of fix it. It's a pastel, it's like paint. Okay, so that would be one kind of roof design. And then let me just show you another idea. Purple. Now I'm going to do some of these teardrop shapes, kind of rounded or teardrop. I'm going to start kind of over here. I want to leave some space on the top for my floating things. So I'm going to kind of start with this little happy face, and then I would put a dot where I want the top. So now I would do kind of this S. So you can almost make like an ellipse. The ellipse and then add the top, you would just go like this. And then we're going to add a little triangle over here. I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to do dot, triangle. So we're just doing some basic shapes for the roofs. We can always add some more once we get our layout. And I'm leaving a decent amount of space up here. So we could grab two different colors or one color. We're not coloring in yet. Okay, so now we're going to add bottom part. I'm going to use this red here, and I could use my straight edge or I could just do freehand. And this one I'm going to take all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to stop at the roof of that house. I'm not going to cut through it. And if I did, that's okay. I can color this in later, okay? But try to stop at the other shapes. Okay, and then this one you could decide, this one's so high up, I'm actually going to end up adding a hill in front. So for this one, I'm just going to draw a line and a line, and I'm going to kind of have this floating shape, but I'll make sure it's not floating later. And then this, you could do the same thing, or you could... I'm also going to have stop, and I'll add a hill. So we're going to drag the shape all the way to the bottom of the paper if your shape is close, and you're going to stop at the roof marks. These ones I left open because I'm going to add a hill in front. Okay, so let's add some hilly shapes, and then we'll kind of decide if we want to add more houses. So for this one, I'm gonna use kind of curvy shapes for the hills. And maybe I'll cut just a little bit in front of this house. And then I might use my light green and add another shape coming here. And then maybe one more like that. Okay, so I kind of just did 3 curvy lines for hills. And again, I can add as we go, okay? I'm gonna kind of cut right in front of that house. Again, curvy shape. And I'm gonna come down. And then I'm gonna do this to kind of cut in front of these. And then maybe I'll even add another little hill like that. Okay, so let's add a couple curvy lines for hills. Okay, good. So now we're not done. We're still kind of getting our layout. So to make this more dreamlike, we're gonna turn our paper. So this one, I might want to put the houses up here. So I would turn my paper like this. So this time we're gonna start with the hills. So you could pick colors you've already used or different ones. So I'm gonna do this kind of curvy shape up here. And then maybe I would do a second little hill like that, okay? Okay, so we're gonna start by turning our paper where we have the most room. And then we're gonna add kind of a little hill in the corner here, okay? So we're adding a little bit of hill. Right now we're still thinking about leaving a lot of space. And now we're gonna draw some more houses or towers. So for this one, a triangle by using my dots. Triangle, triangle. So I'm gonna do 3 different triangles. I could do the same color or I could do different colors. So that's looking really long. I'm gonna add another hill shape. Okay, so now I kind of have a little village floating in the sky when I turn it over. Okay. So I might start with the ellipse. 1, 2, 3. And then I would just add kind of that little teardrop. Okay, so we're gonna add this kind of magical enchanted look by turning our paper sideways, and we're adding another little village up here. Excellent. So before we start kind of coloring in here, look at our design and see what we think. So this one, I think I need a little bit more. So I might even add another teardrop shape that's even bigger. Maybe I need another house up here. And maybe I want to make another hill. So I might make this more like 2 houses. And when I color that in, that'll look separate. Another little building type right there. It's gonna look like. So let's just add a couple more little houses if we need to. And then we'll color in and make everything look pretty. Okay, very nice. So let's think about coloring in. So I already started on this one. So we could use the side of our pastel, which we're gonna get a nice layer of color. So we're kind of using related colors. I'm gonna repeat colors, and I'm gonna be thinking about contrasting colors. And since my paper is green, I might repeat some greens. Okay, so repeating colors is kind of what we're thinking about. So let's color in the roofs and the house parts. Let's leave the mountains alone for now. Okay, great job, my friends. So let's think about our hilly shapes. Some of them we can leave blank and some of them we could color in. At the end, we're gonna outline these to make them pop more, and we're gonna add a lot of patterns and detail. So right now we're just trying to get those flat color ins, and then we'll add those patterns. So we can always add more, we can't take away. So that's what we're being mindful of. So I might just do the color that I outlined, like this dark green, or maybe instead of the yellow, I'm gonna use the light green. So I'm using the side or the point, and let's color in some of those hills. And again, you can leave some of the shapes empty that maybe we'll just add a pattern, or you can color it in all the way and we'll add a pattern when we're done. Okay, excellent job. Let's add patterns. So we are going to be doing repeated patterns. Remember, Chagall liked to use geometric shapes. He also used repeated colors. And you'll notice at the image in class, there's some patterns as well, like on the horse's head. So patterns could be repeated curves, repeated straight lines that overlap, repeated shapes, or even repeated angles. So we're going to be thinking about repeated colors, shapes, lines. So when we're doing the houses, I'm probably going to use the straight lines. And when I'm doing the hills, I might add some more curved patterns like circles. There's some circle shapes. There's some straight lines. When you color them, they look checkered. So I'm going to do some straight line shapes, and I'm going to be thinking about colors. So I could use my straight edge, or I could freehand. And then for this house up here, let's see if I could use a lighter color to go over that red. And I might do some diagonal lines. I have to go over it a couple times, and it kind of like blends those two colors together, which is kind of cool. And let's see what happens if I add an orange over it the other direction. So on this one, I'm going to use a darker color, and I'm just going to do some horizontal lines. I'll use my straight edge. Once we add some straight to the house, we're going to think about the roof. We're going to do the same thing with different designs. Maybe you want to just follow the shape that you have and repeat the shape. So let's add some patterns, repeated shapes into the buildings and the roofs. Okay, so we should have some patterns added to our houses, the roofs and the bottom, but let's add some patterns to our hills. So now we're thinking about curvy patterns or circles. So I might take this darker color and just draw some repeated circle shapes. Maybe I'm just going to do some swirly shapes. Maybe I might just do some repeated kind of scales. Don't forget about these hills up here. So I might just follow the pattern. So go ahead and add some curvy patterns to your hills. Notice that I'm continuing using those greens for the hills. I'm just using light or dark or yellow, and I'm thinking curvy for these hills. So you can... Okay, lovely. So now we might want to outline. You could use black, and you're going to get kind of this thick looking outline, but I actually prefer to use pops of color. So I might use different colors to outline this one. So this roof, I kind of already have an outline. So I'm going to use this kind of dark purple color, and I'm going to outline my roofs and my houses using different colors on this one. But you see how... Okay, so that one I did with just darker colors outlining it. This one I can do with black. You're gonna see what it does. I don't love using black, but it's up to you. You could use it in some areas or all areas. Okay, so we can use black, a mix of black and colors, or the colors. So the more dreamlike you're gonna get is gonna be using the different colors of dark. So go ahead and outline. We're not adding any more details just yet. Okay, so now we're gonna think about the background. So I'm gonna show you a couple ideas. We are gonna maybe try this repeated lined pattern in the sky. This person did more of a swirly repeated line pattern. Or maybe you just wanna leave it empty, which looks good too. I am probably going to leave it empty, but I might want to add just a little something, kind of hill shape, just to take up that space. So I might just add my extra hill shape. And then we would do like we did with all the other ones, where we would fill it in and we would add a pattern. I'm gonna just do the repeated pattern. So it's the sky. I want it to not pop too much, so I might pick a lighter color. So I might try either the lighter green or the lighter blue. And I'm gonna start with 2 or 3 lines around each shape. So watch what I mean. So 2 around that shape. 2 around that shape. Now I'm gonna add my own geometric shape. So here I could do a circle or a triangle or a square. So I'm gonna do a square here. And then I'm gonna repeat around my square until I kind of run into these shapes here. This one, I'm gonna add a triangle. And then I'm gonna repeat the shapes around the triangle. And then I'm gonna continue with my shapes here, outlining. It's a pretty cool design. We might add a second color, but let's do that. Let's either add a little extra hill in the corner if we need it, or we could do this kind of repeated pattern in the background. Excellent. So you may want to add a little, maybe for you 5th graders, a second color to your background. And I would just kind of do the same thing with a light color and just follow those shapes. Awesome. So once we have our backgrounds done, we're going to think about details. So this is optional. You might not want any details because it's a dreamlike quality, right? But if you look at the picture in the classroom, you'll just notice there's some square or rectangle windows or doors. So I prefer using the dark colors. So since this one's a little bland, I'm going to draw, you could use your straight edge. I'm going to draw a door. Or then I might add a little window up here using red. I'm not doing it to all of the houses, just some of them. So this is where you might have to use black on some of these shapes that are super dark. Okay, so optional windows and doors if you would like. All right, my friends, so final details. Just take a look. Does anything need to be a little bit darker? Maybe these lines on my building need to be a little bit darker. Maybe you decided you wanted to color in every other square on one of these patterns. That's what you're looking for. Maybe you realize, oh, this roof, that needs a pattern. It doesn't look very good. So you could just do the pattern. Okay, so we're doing any final details. And then you're going to flip your picture over. You're going to glue your Marc Chagall tag and write your name on it. And then you are all done with your Marc Chagall Enchanted Russian Village. Great job today, my friends, doing our abstract dreamlike enchanted Russian village, just like Chagall. So if you have time to evaluate, we can point out the contrasting colors, the different patterns that we used, and maybe how some of the houses are teeny tiny in proportion and some are normal, large scale. So I hope you enjoyed your time doing our Enchanted Russian Villages by Marc Chagall. And we'll see you next time on Art Masters.